Hello, my name is Rich Howard, owner of Architectural Builder. Supply in this video is to bring you a closer look at the DraftSeal number DS234AT. This is a door shoe with a thermoplastic elastomer insert, TPE insert. TPE, you can search the internet for technical definitions of it. In short, it's a good performing synthetic rubber type material that will give you reasonably excellent performance and is certainly far superior to vinyl, is the bottom line. If you're looking for something good, TPE is good, is the short version of all of that. You want to avoid vinyl if you can, and TPE is very often used in instances when weather stripping, where you want to keep water out. You know, this is very resistant to water infiltration, and this TPE insert will be good for that. This is an aluminum extrusion that simply has that TPE insert slid down into it. That's what it is. This slides very easily, as you can tell. That's good prior to installation. We'll talk about that in a moment. After installation, you probably are going to want to crimp one of these ends down. Maybe just take a center punch, or you'll see it often. Clients will, like once a year, a client will call and say, hey, this is dented. Well, no, the factory took a center punch and just tapped it to pinch that end down to keep the insert from sliding. Should you need to replace it down the road, just relieve that center punch prep that's been done. And you'll be able to, of course, continue on with your purchase. Okay, so down below this video will be an image showing these door bottoms dimensional properties, and let's go over that now. They've got it at 1 9/64 of an inch width, so basically 1 1/8. They've got the overall height at 1/2 inch, and that's important to know because that's the dimension that this is going to occupy. So if your door undercut is 1/4 inch, you know, this isn't going to fit. You're going to need to be somewhere in the 7/16 range. You don't really want to have an excessive amount of compression there because the door is not going to operate correctly. And if your gap is basically greater than that, it won't make contact. So keep in mind you're dealing with a 1/2 inch total height there. Now, it should be noted, I've seen these installed as astragals as well, and this would make a very good astragal, certainly, if you had an application where this made sense to install this. You could install this between a pair of doors that might have exit devices on both of them, and that you had an unusually large gap between the two doors. This might do the job of both sealing that area and also, of course, closing that gap up, so doing both of those jobs. I certainly suppose you could get into mortising this should you want to. That probably wouldn't be too much of a challenge to mortise that. It would not be too much of a challenge to mortise that into the door. I suppose you could even go a step further and give yourself a longer screw and then add some springs behind there so that you can tailor the entire projection of the unit to accomplish that. But generally, this is a door bottom. This is mounted to the bottom of the door. You don't see it when the door is closed, and a lot of people like that. This will be available. It's available from the manufacturer in about 5 lengths: 3 foot, 4 foot, 5 foot, 6 foot, and then 12 foot. 12 foot's not that common, but you can have an overhead door that wide, certainly, and you might want to install this on an overhead door. But of course, keep in mind how this may affect the proper operation of an overhead door when you're adding thickness to the bottom of the door and the motor is going to continue to go until the stop switch is engaged. The door seating onto the sill and its stop switch are timed correctly. You want to think that through before you just pull the trigger. Obviously, if you have need for a custom length, you will need to trim this in the field. You'll need to possibly re-drill a hole. And those holes are slotted because it will give you the ability to laterally control the exact positioning of it. And certainly if it was used as an astragal as well, you can pull that back and forth to account for, what are you going to account for? You know, really, a door that's not square or at a 0 degree or 90 degree, I suppose, to the opposing walls. If you've got a jamb that's towed or twisted in, or a door that just is hinge bound so it cocks out a little bit, you can tailor that a bit. And plus, those slotted holes, and speaking of those slotted holes, screws are included, and this model will include a self-drilling point, a self-drilling tip. Which a lot of people love, this type of screw. So that slotted hole will also help compensate for a misdrilled hole. That drill bit, or in this case the screw, might walk a little bit before it pierces into the material that you're attaching it to. So keep that in mind as well. I've had people also install these onto steel doors, and now the inverted channel in the bottom of a steel door is not going to be exactly correct for this sort of item, because an inverted bottom channel is probably closer to 5/8, so this would get completely sucked up into it. But I've had people that have added material down there to build that down. You could, in effect, add fender washers underneath those screws and build that down so you get a concealed sort of weather seal under the door. You can tailor that, obviously, by removing or adding some washers. And then I would have people even add a door sweep to the outside, because where is the water you're trying to stop by the time it hits the middle of this? It's directly under the door. So you might want to think about exactly the best way to approach that. If you wanted belts and suspenders, you could put this under the door. You could add a door sweep out here with a drip cap so that you've got that initial line of defense outside the door. And anything that got past not only the drip cap but the sweep and got to this point of the door, you're going to trap it here. Anyway, lots of different ways to handle this. Now, the name DraftSeal is a name quite compatible with, or I should say synonymous with, lots of weather stripping items. And before we move on to that, there is a link below this video to a document called Instructions that will allow you to review a cut sheet sort of perspective on this that doesn't give much in the way of instruction. Cut to length, pre-drill your holes, make sure your gap is correct, your undercut, and proceed. Finally, there is a link below this video to the manufacturer's page where you can pull up not only all of the DraftSeal products that we sell, but a link to the manufacturer's website, as well as a link to the full product catalog. DraftSeal has several and many regular items. This door bottom would be an example of that. They have several and many items that no one else has. So if you have more than an occasional need for weather stripping, or if you seem to be the person that always gets the hard ones, review that DraftSeal product catalog, because there's possibly a solution in there that you're going to say, oh my gosh, I wish I had known this existed years ago. They have that sort of product line. So review it, maybe link to it, etc. If you have any questions on the DraftSeal, this is their part number DS234AT door bottom. Obviously the aluminum is in a mill finish with a thermoplastic elastomer seal, or any other DraftSeal product, please feel free to reach out to us. And thank you.